Welcome to Story Time, a place where real fear meets the unknown. Here, we dive into true scary stories, chilling suspense, dark mysteries, and haunting horror that will make you question what's real and what's watching. Every story is carefully told to pull you into the shadows because sometimes the most terrifying things actually happened. New stories drop 3 times a week, so if you love suspense, mystery, and horror that keeps you up at night, this channel was made for you. Make sure you subscribe, like, and follow Storytime so you never miss a story. Turn on notifications because the next one might be worse than the last.
The Airbnb listing looked perfect. A tiny guest house behind a craftsman-style home, white curtains, warm lighting, a little patio with string lights. It had 5-star reviews, and the host, Mark, responded within minutes. I was in town for a weekend training for my job. Nothing fancy, just 2 nights. I didn't want a hotel. I wanted quiet. Mark messaged right after I booked. "Welcome. Let me know if you need anything at all." I replied politely and didn't think much of it. Friday evening, I arrived around 6:30 p.m. The neighborhood was calm, clean sidewalks, big trees, the kind of place where you expect dog walkers and kids on bikes. Mark's house sat up front. The guest house was in the back, tucked behind a tall wooden fence. There was a keypad lock on the door. I entered the code. The door opened smoothly. Inside, it smelled like lemon cleaner and fresh laundry. A small living room, a kitchenette, a bedroom with a queen bed, and a bathroom. Everything was too perfect. Still, I dropped my suitcase and sent Mark a quick message. "Just arrived. Everything looks great, thank you." He replied instantly. "Awesome. I saw you pull in. Let me know if you need extra towels." I paused. I hadn't seen him. I brushed it off. Maybe he saw me through his window. Maybe he had a ring camera at the front. I unpacked and changed into leggings and a hoodie. My training didn't start until the next morning, so I planned to shower, eat, and relax. Then my phone buzzed again. "Mark, the guest house gets chilly at night. There's a space heater in the closet if you need it." I hadn't mentioned being cold. I stared at the screen, suddenly aware of how quiet the guest house was. No TV playing, no neighbors, just the faint hum of the refrigerator. I tried to shake the feeling and started cooking ramen on the stove. I ate on the small couch and scrolled TikTok. At 8:41 p.m., another message popped up. "Mark, your ramen smells good, LOL." My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. I looked around. There was no window facing the couch, no open blinds. The only way he could know what I was eating was if he was inside the guest house earlier, or watching. I stood up slowly, my heart thudding. I walked room to room like I was just stretching, but I was scanning, looking for anything unusual. That's when I noticed the smoke detector. It was placed oddly, not centered, slightly angled toward the living room. I stood under it, staring up. It looked normal, but the longer I stared, the more it bothered me. I grabbed a chair and climbed up. The detector had a tiny dark circle on one side, like a pinhole. My throat went dry. I pulled it down gently. It wasn't wired. It was stuck to the ceiling with adhesive, and it was warm. I dropped it like it burned me. I backed away and stood in the middle of the room, breathing fast. Then my phone buzzed again. "Mark, everything okay?" That's when panic hit, because I hadn't moved loud enough for him to hear. I hadn't messaged him. I hadn't called anyone. So how did he know something changed? I grabbed my keys and ran outside. The backyard was dark. The fence gate was locked behind me. I was trapped in the yard unless I went back through the guest house. I looked toward the main house. One of the upstairs curtains moved, and I swear, I saw a face. I went back inside, locking the door, and immediately called my best friend. She answered on the first ring. "Girl, what's wrong?" I whispered. "I think there's a camera in here." She went silent for a second. Then, "Call the police. Now." My hands shook as I dialed. I explained everything. The dispatcher asked, "Are you in immediate danger?" I looked around again, suddenly aware of how exposed I was. "I don't know," I said, "but he's messaging me like he's watching me." The dispatcher stayed calm, told me officers were on the way. While I waited, I did the only thing I could think of. I started recording video on my phone. I filmed the smoke detector. I filmed the adhesive. I filmed the weird pinhole. Then I checked the bedroom. The bedroom vent above the bed looked wrong, like it had been removed and put back. I grabbed the chair again, climbed up, and pulled the vent cover down. My stomach flipped. Behind it was a small black device taped inside the vent. A camera, a tiny camera, pointed directly at the bed. I stumbled backward and almost fell. That was it. I didn't care about my suitcase. I didn't care about my charger. I grabbed my purse, my keys, and ran to the door. Then I froze, because the keypad lock started beeping, like someone was trying to unlock it. I backed away slowly. The beeping stopped. Then my phone buzzed. If he was watching me, it was probably connected to that. I backed into the bathroom and locked myself in. I held my phone with both hands, trying not to scream. I heard footsteps outside the guest house, slow, like someone walking around it. Then the doorknob jiggled. Not hard, not forced, just testing. I covered my mouth with my hand and tried to breathe. A minute later, flashing lights appeared through the bathroom window. Police. I opened the bathroom door, ran out, and threw the guest house door open. 2 officers stood there. One stayed near me. The other walked toward the main house. I told them everything. They asked to see the devices. When I showed them the camera in the vent, the officer's face changed instantly. "That's not legal," he said quietly. They escorted me to their car while they knocked on Mark's front door. Mark didn't answer at first, but after a few minutes, he opened the door. He was smiling, like nothing was wrong, like I was being dramatic. The officer spoke to him. Mark's expression changed. He tried to laugh. Then he started talking fast. He claimed the camera was for security, claimed it was left by a previous tenant. But the officer asked him something that made Mark go pale. "Why were you messaging her about what she was eating?" Mark stopped talking. The officer asked for consent to search. Mark refused. So the officers took my statement, documented the devices, and told me to leave the property immediately for my safety. I sat in the patrol car, shaking. I watched the guest house from the street, and I realized something. If I hadn't noticed that smoke detector, I would have slept there, and he would have watched. All night. I stayed in a hotel that night, but I didn't sleep. The next day, Airbnb refunded me. They removed the listing. But that wasn't the worst part. A week later, I got an email from Airbnb support. They said the host's account had been investigated, but they couldn't disclose the outcome. I searched Mark's name online and found something. A local news article. 3 years earlier. A man arrested for unlawful surveillance after a woman found cameras hidden in a rental property. The mugshot looked like him. Same face, same smile. And the worst part? The article said the charges were dropped due to insufficient evidence. I sat there staring at my phone, realizing how close I came to being another story that almost happened, and how many people probably stayed in that guest house before me, never noticing the smoke detector, never checking the vents, never knowing they weren't alone.
When I moved into my new apartment, I promised myself I was going to start fresh. New city, new job, new routine. I'd spent most of my 20s feeling like life was something that happened to other people. Like I was always watching everyone else build careers, relationships, confidence, while I stayed stuck in survival mode. So when I finally signed a lease on a small, clean, second-floor unit in a quiet complex, it felt like a win. It wasn't luxury, but it was mine. The first week was normal. Boxes, cleaning, organizing, the usual. Then the packages started. At first, it was small stuff, a shower curtain, new towels, kitchen tools. I'd been ordering a lot online because I didn't know the area well yet, and honestly, I liked the feeling of building my home piece by piece. One afternoon, I came home from work and found a box sitting neatly against my door. On top was a sticky note written in neat handwriting. "Hey, FedEx left this at my door by mistake. I brought it over. Nate, apartment 2B. I smiled. It felt neighborly, sweet. I looked down the hallway and noticed a man standing outside a door a few units away. Tall, early 30s maybe. He lifted a hand in a small wave. I waved back. No big deal. The next day, it happened again. A package, another note. Amazon dropped this off at mine again. They keep mixing us up, LOL. Okay, that was weird, but not impossible. The building had similar doors, and delivery drivers rushed all the time. I sent a friendly note back thanking him. He replied by leaving a little candy bar on my doorstep. Welcome to the building. It was harmless, and in a way it was comforting. I didn't know anyone in the city. Having a neighbor who felt safe was nice. Then things started to get slightly off. The third time he returned a package, he knocked instead of leaving it. I opened the door cautiously, chain still on. He stood there holding a box and smiling like we were old friends. "Hey," he said. "I figured I'd hand it to you this time, just to make sure it didn't get snatched." His voice was calm, but his eyes moved quickly, scanning behind me, past my shoulder, into my apartment. I stepped slightly to block his view. "Thanks," I said, taking the package. "No problem," he said. "So, you live alone?" The question hit like a needle. I forced a laugh. Yeah, just me." He nodded slowly, then smiled again. "If you ever need help with anything, you can knock on my door. I'm right there." He pointed down the hall. I closed the door and locked it immediately. I told myself I was overreacting. People asked dumb questions, but I couldn't shake the feeling that his curiosity wasn't casual. It was hungry. Over the next 2 weeks, the mistaken deliveries became constant. Every other day, Nate was returning something. A box, a padded envelope, a small Amazon bag, always with a note, always with a smile, always acting like we shared a private joke. I started to notice something else too. Some of my packages were missing, not all, just certain ones. At first I blamed the delivery company, then porch pirates, then maybe the office. But one day I got a notification, delivered. I came home and there was nothing. No box, no note. I waited. An hour later, a knock came. I opened the door. Nate stood there holding my package, but his smile looked different, tighter, like he was annoyed. "Hey," he said, "this one ended up at mine too." I took it slowly. It was open. The tape had been cut and retaped. I stared at it. He laughed lightly. "I didn't open it, if that's what you're thinking. It came like that." I didn't respond. He kept talking. "You order a lot. You must have money." My stomach turned. I stepped back and shut the door without another word. That night, I sat on my couch staring at my order history. It wasn't just towels and kitchen tools anymore. I'd ordered a new purse, a pair of boots, some skincare, and a small safe, one of those portable lock boxes. And the only packages that had gone missing were the ones that looked expensive. The next morning, I called the leasing office. They told me there had been some issues with stolen packages in the past, but they didn't have cameras in the hallways. Of course they didn't. So I did what most people do now. I bought my own. A small door camera that attached with adhesive. No drilling. Easy. I installed it that evening. Then I waited. The next day, I got another notification. Delivered. I was at work. I opened my camera app and watched. The delivery driver walked up, placed the package against my door, snapped a photo, and left. 5 minutes later, Nate appeared. He walked down the hall slowly, like he belonged there. He looked around. Then he picked up my package and carried it back to his apartment. My heart pounded so hard I felt sick. I replayed it 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. He didn't hesitate. He didn't look confused. He didn't knock. He just took it. That night, I went to the leasing office with the footage. The manager's eyes widened. "We'll handle this," she said quickly. But her voice sounded like she didn't want to, like she wanted the problem to disappear quietly. I told her I wanted it documented. She nodded and said she'd call me the next day. When I returned to my apartment that evening, something was sitting in front of my door. A package. A sticky note. "Hey, sorry about earlier. I think I grabbed yours by mistake. Nate." I stared at the note. He knew. He knew I saw him. He knew I had a camera. And instead of being scared, he was testing me. That night, I barely slept. Every sound in the hallway made me sit up. Every creak felt like a warning. At 2:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. A notification from my camera. Motion detected. I opened the app. Nate was standing outside my door, not holding a package, just standing there, in the dark. His head tilted slightly as if he was listening. Then he leaned down and put his face close to my door, like he was trying to see through the crack. My stomach dropped. I sat frozen on my bed, phone in my hand, staring at the screen. Then he did something worse. He reached out and gently touched my doorknob, not turning it, just touching it like he wanted me to know he could. Then he stepped back and walked away. The next morning, I called the police. They came and watched the footage. The officer's face hardened. "That's intimidation," he said, "and the theft is clear." They took a report. They told me to keep recording everything. Then they did something I didn't expect. They knocked on Nate's door. Nate answered in a t-shirt and pajama pants, looking calm, like he'd been waiting. He smiled at the officer. "Morning," he said. The officer asked him about the packages. Nate shrugged. "They always end up at my door. I was trying to help." The officer asked him why he took my package without leaving a note. Nate's smile twitched. I didn't think it was a big deal. The officer told him theft was theft. Nate nodded slowly. Then his eyes slid toward me, and he smiled again. But this time it wasn't friendly. It was sharp, like a blade. The police told me they couldn't arrest him without proof of what was inside the packages, but they warned him. And that warning was enough to change the energy in the hallway. For the next week, Nate didn't speak to me. He didn't wave. He didn't leave notes, but he did something else. He started leaving my packages in front of my door again, perfectly placed, like he wanted me to know he could take them whenever he wanted, but he was choosing not to.
Then one day I came home and found a small box. No label, no tape, just sitting there. I didn't touch it. I backed away and called the police again. When the officer arrived, he opened it with gloves. Inside was my portable safe, the one that had gone missing 2 weeks earlier. Empty, no note, no apology, just a message. I stared down at it and felt my skin crawl. Because it wasn't about the safe. It was about the fact that he'd had it, that he'd opened it, that he'd returned it whenever he felt like it, like he was in control. That night, I moved. Not at the end of my lease, not after thinking it over. I packed my most important things, called a friend from work, and slept on her couch. Within a week, I was gone. The leasing office offered to transfer me to another building, but I didn't want another building. I wanted distance. Months later, I searched Nate's name online, and what I found made my blood run cold. He'd been arrested in another state for identity theft, mail fraud, breaking into apartment mail rooms, stealing credit cards. He wasn't just a creepy neighbor. He was a predator with practice. And the scariest part? If I hadn't bought that camera, I would have kept believing he was helpful. I would have kept thanking him. And he would have kept taking what he wanted.
The phone was barely a year old. I didn't even want to sell it. But rent had jumped, my car needed repairs, and life was doing that thing where it squeezes you from every direction until you're forced to let go of something. So I listed it online. Not Craigslist. I'd heard too many stories. I used a popular marketplace app with profiles, ratings, and verified badges. I posted clear photos, included the storage size, and wrote, "Local pickup only, cash only, meet in public." Within minutes, I got messages. Most were the usual. "Will you take $50? Can you ship it? Is it still available?" Then one message stood out, from a profile named Darren. No photo, no ratings, but his message was direct. "I can pick up today. Cash ready." I replied, "Yes, it's available. Public meetup only." He responded immediately. "Okay, what's your address?" I didn't answer that. Instead, I said, "We can meet at the police station parking lot." A pause. Then, "That's too far? I'll come to you." My stomach tightened. I typed, "No, I don't give out my address. Police station or no deal." Another pause. Then, "Fine, I'm not a criminal. I just want the phone." I didn't respond. A minute later, he sent, "I'm already close to your area." I stared at my screen. How would he know my area? I hadn't given him anything except the city listed on the app. I blocked him. I felt proud of myself for not being naive. I thought that would be the end. It wasn't. 2 hours later, a new message came from a different profile. This one was named J. New account. No ratings. Message. "Still selling the phone? I can pick up today." The wording was identical. My heart sank. I didn't respond. Then the messages started coming faster. Different names, different profiles, same tone, same urgency. "I can pick up today. Cash ready. I'm close." It felt like one person switching masks. I stopped checking the app and tried to ignore it. That night, I cooked dinner and watched TV. Around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text message, not through the app. A regular text, unknown number. "Hello, I want the phone." I sat up. My listing had no phone number. The app didn't show it. So how did he have my number? I didn't respond. Another text came. "Don't be like that, I'm serious." Then, "I'm outside." My blood turned to ice. I got up slowly and walked to my window. My apartment faced the parking lot. I peeked through the blinds. A dark sedan sat near the curb. Engine off, lights off, but someone was inside. I couldn't see their face, only the faint glow of a phone screen. I backed away from the window. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped my phone. I texted back one word, "Who is this?" The reply came instantly. "Open the door." I didn't breathe. I stared at the lock, the deadbolt, the chain, the peephole. Then I heard it, a knock, soft, 3 taps. My entire body went cold. I didn't move. Another knock, then a voice, muffled through the door. "Hey, it's me. I'm here for the phone." The voice sounded calm, friendly even, like we had an appointment. I backed away quietly and grabbed my pepper spray from the kitchen drawer. I held it in my shaking hand, trying to think. If I called the police, would he run? If I didn't call, would he try to force his way in? My phone buzzed again. A message. This time, it was a photo of my apartment door, taken from the hallway, my door, my welcome mat, my number. I felt like I was going to throw up. The text under it read, "I found you." I backed into my bathroom and locked myself in. I called 911. The dispatcher asked me to stay calm. I told her someone was outside my door and had sent me a photo of my apartment. She asked if I had a weapon. I told her I had pepper spray. She told me to stay in the bathroom, keep the line open, and wait. I sat on the floor with my knees pulled to my chest, listening. Then I heard footsteps outside. Slow, like pacing. Then the doorknob jiggled. Not hard, just testing. Then another knock, harder this time. "Come on," the voice said. "Stop playing." I covered my mouth so I wouldn't make noise. The dispatcher whispered that officers were on the way. I heard the footsteps again, then silence. For a moment, I thought he left. Then my phone buzzed again. Another photo. This time, it was a photo of my building from outside, my balcony visible, my curtains. The angle was from the parking lot, the sedan. He was in the car, watching. The text read, "I can wait all night." My body went numb. I didn't know what to do, because this wasn't about a phone anymore. This was about control. The police arrived within 10 minutes. But those 10 minutes felt like an hour. I heard sirens faintly, then flashing lights reflected against my bathroom wall. I stepped out slowly. The officer knocked on my door. I opened it with trembling hands. 2 officers stood there. They asked if I could show them the messages. I handed them my phone. They looked at the photos. One officer's face tightened. "Do you recognize him?" I shook my head. They went outside. They searched the parking lot, but the sedan was gone. He'd left the moment the sirens got close. The officer took my report. He asked if I had cameras. I didn't. He told me to contact the app and report the user accounts. He also told me something I'll never forget. "This is common," he said. "Some people use marketplace listings to find women who live alone." My throat tightened. I asked how he got my number. The officer explained that sometimes apps leak data. Sometimes buyers can reverse search photos. Sometimes they can use your first name and city and dig. And sometimes they just get lucky. That night, I deleted the listing. I deleted my account. I turned off my lights and sat in silence, but I couldn't stop thinking about the photos, how close he was, how easily he found my door, how confident he sounded. The next day, I told my landlord what happened. He offered to move me to a different unit. But I didn't want a different unit. I wanted to feel safe again. I bought a door camera. I bought a new deadbolt. I bought window alarms. I started checking my blinds every night. Then, a week later, it happened again. I got a message from a new number, a single photo. It was my car in the parking lot, taken at night. The text read, "Still got the phone?" I felt something in me snap, not fear, anger. I went straight to the police station with the message. This time, the officer took it seriously. They asked for the phone number. They asked for the app name. They asked for the screenshots. They asked if I had any suspects. I didn't. But I did have something else. My door camera. Because the day before, someone had walked past my door at 11:58 p.m. Not a neighbor. Not someone I recognized. A man in a hoodie. Face angled down. But the camera caught his shoes. Distinct. Bright white sneakers with a black stripe. 2 nights later, my camera caught him again. Same hoodie, same shoes, same slow walk past my door. And this time, he paused. He looked directly into the camera, and he smiled. The police used that footage. They checked other cameras in the complex. They found the sedan. They ran the plates. And 2 weeks later, they arrested him. He wasn't Darren. He wasn't Jay. He was a man with a record. Stalking, harassment, trespassing. He'd done this before. He'd used online listings to get close, to test boundaries, to scare women into responding, to see who would open the door. When I found out he'd been caught, I expected relief. But what I felt was something else. A sick realization. Because if I'd been more desperate, if I'd agreed to meet at my apartment, if I'd opened the door even once, I don't know what would have happened. And the scariest part? He wasn't the only one. There are people like him everywhere, scrolling, waiting, looking for someone who thinks it's just a phone.
And that brings us to the end of tonight's story. If this story stayed with you, if it made you pause, think, or sent a chill down your spine, then Story Time did exactly what it was meant to do. Here on Story Time, we uncover real stories, unexplained moments, and true events that remind us. Some things are far stranger than fiction. If you enjoy suspense, mystery, and stories that linger long after the screen goes dark, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. I release new stories 3 times a week, and I'd love to have you back for the next one. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, every story has a shadow. Good night, and I'll see you next time on Story Time.